The extraordinary life and the sad death of Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog uh, at the same time in their home in Santa Fe in New Mexico. Hackman is two-time Academy Award winner, one of the most formidable actors of his generation, leaves behind a huge cinematic legacy. And his death at the age of 95 marks the end of an era, a farewell to one of Hollywood's most authentic performers. Few actors have embodied such versatility and depth as Hackman. His career spanned 6 decades with performances that remain some of the most memorable in film history, from Bonnie and Clyde in 1967 as Buck Barrow, uh, and the Jimmy Doyle in The French Connection in '71 that earned him his first Oscar. It's his ability to bring complexity to his roles made him a staple of American cinema, from The Conversation to Mississippi Burning, and his Oscar-winning performance as the brutal sheriff in Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. He was never a showman in the conventional sense. He didn't seek the limelight. He didn't bask in the trappings of celebrity. Instead, he would let his work speak for itself, whether playing the menacing Lex Luthor in Superman. I loved his his Lex Luthor, or the eccentric Royal Tenenbaum, or his last film, Welcome to Mooseport, which was a quiet departure from Hollywood. He left the industry not with a grand farewell, but with a simple decision to step away and embrace a quiet life of retirement. His decision to retire early was unusual for someone of his stature, but he wanted peace over fame, and he and his wife, the classical pianist Betsy Arakawa, settled in Santa Fe, where they led a reclusive yet fulfilling life, apparently. Their relationship, spanning 3 decades, was marked by quiet companionship rather than the public spectacle often associated with Hollywood marriages. And the details of their death remains unclear, though police have stated there's no immediate indication of foul play. The presence of their dog, too, adds a poignant touch to an already tragic loss. It raises questions about what might have happened in their final moments, an accidental tragedy, an unforeseen medical emergency, or simply the weight of time catching up on them all together. Regardless of the circumstances, the loss is enormous, and the outpouring of grief from the film industry, from fans, is a testimony to Hackman's impact. Francis Ford Coppola, the director, called him a great artist, inspiring, magnificent in his work. George Takei summed up Hackman's ability to disappear into a role, saying he could play anyone and you could feel a whole life behind it. Indeed, his performances often felt lived in, as though he wasn't merely acting but embodying real, flawed, deeply human characters. For many, he was he was the sum of a particular type of American masculinity: rugged, no nonsense, deeply introspective. He didn't rely on good looks or charm alone. He had this undeniable presence, a force that made you believe every word that he said. He was able to do stillness in a way that so few actors really can. And so when I'm looking at his films, I can think, I can believe that he's thinking, and that's the most extraordinary ability. And this is the end of a private, thoughtful, well-lived life, and his choice to retreat from Hollywood to write novels rather than to perform, to spend his days in quiet companionship rather than red carpets, reflects a man who understood his worth beyond the camera lens. And in the end, his legacy is not just in films he left behind, but in the authenticity with which he lived his life. Coppola called him a great artist. I think he was a great human, a great man. And though he's now left the stage, his performances remain immortal. His influence is undeniable. Um, you know, I'm sorry about this news. Gene Hackman, uh, it's a great loss. It's a great loss, but his his work lives on. His work will endure.